on to the third module of Science Policy and Advocacy for STEM Scientists course.
So I would like to now introduce Shalin Jyotishi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Journal of Science Policy and Governance, which you may remember from the podcast that you listened to for the class that was released last week from GPS STEM. If you haven't listened to it, you should. JSPG is also a partner for this course, as was mentioned in the beginning, and that was really helpful also for us in terms of writing the module last week on writing and examples from JSPG for that module. For the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure working with Shalin at JSPG and learning how to strategically advance the mission of an organization like this. In addition to JSPG, what Shalin does by day is he is Assistant Director for Economic Development and Community Engagement at the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, or APLU. Shalin is recognized as the World Economic Forum Global Shaper, and he's a Fortel Ambassador Board Member at Georgetown University Center for Security and Emerging Technology. Among his many leadership roles, he's a University Innovation Fellow at Stanford University, as well as an editor for the Journal of Economic Development and Higher Education. Previously, Shalin held science policy roles at the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, as well as a consulting role with the American Association for the Advancement of Science. He graduated from the University of Georgia. And today, Shalin will talk about the role of APLU in the broader ecosystem of higher education and describe his expertise in helping learners graduate with skills and competencies to enter the broader workforce. Shalin?
Well, folks, as Adriana mentioned, my name is Shalin Jyotishi. I'm really excited to be here with you all, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities and the role we play in helping public research universities across the continent better bridge the worlds of education and work. You can find me at Twitter at Shalin Jyotishi. And I'll also have my email in a later slide for us to connect. This is just a little bit about me. We can skip this one. Adriana covered this pretty well. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. APLU is North America's oldest higher education association. We were founded in the 1800s. We're comprised of public research universities. So we have 240 members in all US states and territories, including UC Irvine. We also have members in Canada and Mexico, so we're a North American organization with a North American presence. Our membership is open to all R1, R2, or land-grant institutions. We're based in Washington. We are researchers, we're advocates, we're policy wonks, we're institutional innovation specialists at APLU. We all wear different hats to fulfill our mission here. We all come from different backgrounds. Some of us have been in the academic world for a very long time. Others have come from industry, and others have come from think tanks, government, etc. We're led by our venerable president, Peter McPherson, who's been in this space quite a long time. Who we serve on campus. So this is a question I get pretty often. Who does APLU actually work with at my institution? We primarily partner with administrators, presidents, provosts, vice presidents for research, but also others within the institution depending on the issue set we're working with. For example, you might have an associate vice president for economic development who's spearheading skills development efforts in your region. That'd be somebody we work with pretty closely. We work with folks in international programs, student affairs, equity and inclusion, government relations, communications, institutional research, and the list goes on and on. So a key attribute of APLU, which is a bit unique in among our sister higher ed associations, is that we really go really in the depths of the institution, and linking and leveraging different kinds of perspectives is one of our core strengths as an organization. So what do we actually do? Well, we lobby, we advocate for public research universities and the students and faculty and communities they serve. Our government relations office partners with the government relations folks that are member institutions, and that's really where the power of the public research university sector comes into play. chances are there's going to be a university or college in every congressional district. And odds are pretty high that that institution is one of the largest employers in that district, with some of the most engaged constituents as alums of that institution. We also conduct research alongside our members. We're a bit different from think tanks or R&D organizations in that all of our research is done for and in service and in partnership with our member institutions. We also convene our members. We convene North America's largest annual conference of public university presidents, provosts, vice presidents, and other leadership members. We also convene constituent groups every summer by issue area. So we do a lot of membership engagement by having conversations together. Adriana asked if I could give a little bit of a broader context of the world of workforce development, and I wanted to give just a small smattering sample of some of the ecosystem players in this space. The world of workforce development is really diverse, and it includes the national academies and APLU, but also a myriad of funders, a myriad of philanthropy organizations, including Lumina and Markle. It includes researchers at think tanks like New America and Brookings and the Georgetown Center for Education and the Workforce. It includes grassroots activists and grassroots mobilizers who are really looking to bridge education and work in communities all across the country, and a whole host of other employer organizations, associations, and other advocacy groups. So the list alone would probably take a full-blown presentation, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a sampling by showing some of the logos you see on screen here. So what exactly is workforce development, right? So we talk about this word a lot, and it comes up in all sorts of conversations. Fundamentally, for the context of our work at APLU, workforce development is about equipping learners and workers with the KSA, the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to do well in the labor market and thrive in the workplace. When education and skills don't match up to what the labor market's looking for, typically two forms of workforce development take place. And higher ed institutions are increasingly playing an active role in both of these areas, even public research universities who traditionally haven't really been involved in workforce development in this particular manner. The first is upskilling, right? So education and training to help somebody gain the skills they need to continue to be successful in a job they already have. For example, if you're a front desk attendant at a dental clinic and you've checked in patients using paper, suddenly a tablet's introduced to make you a bit more efficient and faster in your work, you might require a little bit of training on how to use that new tablet device. That's an example of upskilling, and it's really common. Anytime we do professional development activities like what we're doing now here today, we're contributing to our upskilling. We're trying to gain new sets of knowledge, skills, and abilities that we don't have in order to do our job better and more effectively. The second form of workforce development that's most common in the higher ed space is this reskilling piece. So you have skills, you have knowledge, you have abilities, but they're now not up to par. Maybe new technologies have been introduced in the workplace. Maybe you've had some competition from abroad, and there's a need to now equip you with the skills needed to perform a job you don't have right now. That is an example of reskilling. So for example, automation is an area in which reskilling is pretty popular, as you can imagine. So a cashier's job is automated away. Uh-oh, my slide is cut off here. It's supposed to say he or she is trained to perform a new job with a higher wage premium than the prior job that the worker had. So that's an example of reskilling and upskilling. Those two words are kind of confusing. So what can universities do to advance this workforce development conversation? Adriana and Harinder wanted us to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what institutions do. So I have on screen what we call work and learn. Work and learn are strategies that universities can employ to help their students gain hands-on experiences to augment their classroom-based education with hands-on experiences that can help them gain the specific skills needed for particular jobs. So there are low-touch work and learn, which are very, very low-touch, like career fairs. And then there are high-touch work and learn opportunities like registered apprenticeships. And then the spectrum is all across the board. You have mentorship in here, you have job shadowing, you have internships, you have co-ops, you have the full set of work and learn opportunities displayed here. If I had more time, I'd actually go in a little bit more depth as to which work and learn opportunities have been proven to be most effective in the higher ed context, because I think that's a really, really interesting point of conversation. But unfortunately, in interest of time, I just want to provide a brief snapshot of the various ways in which universities equip graduates with some of these specific skills. Another really growing movement in higher ed, and especially for public research universities who have this public mandate to serve their communities that they're in and the regional workforce needs of their particular state, we're seeing more and more non-degree credentials pop up into the credential marketplace. So I have a chart here, which is courtesy of my colleagues at WorkCred, which is an affiliate of the American National Standards Institute. But it gives you a sense of how these different kinds of credentials compare and contrast with one another. Each have their own markers of quality. There are quality degrees and there are degrees that aren't of quality. The same can be said of certificates and certifications and licenses. Badges, you all may hear of badges in different contexts, are sort of a way to describe a micro certification in many ways. So just wanted to give a little bit of an overview here. Certifications have gotten a lot of steam recently, and after I finish this little bit of a spiel, I'll actually drop a link in the chat that sort of will allow you to get up to speed on what the conversation has been like with respect to certifications. So certifications are unique out of all of these in that they're not offered by higher ed institutions. If you see a university advertising that they offer a certification, something's not right. Certifications are issued by third-party industry organizations or professional entities that identify specific competency needs and then design a test around those competencies. It's in contrast to degrees and certificates in that way. A couple of trends that I wanted to highlight on the call today facing the higher ed sector. One of them is this movement to deconstruct credentials into competencies. Let's do a quick poll. This is going to be fun. And actually, I'm not going to be able to see the results unless I get out of this view. So I'm going to cheat my slide deck here. Insert in the chat the letter A. If you've ever felt that, and actually I'm going to turn off, oh, nope, it works right here. Can I see the chat? All right, yes, I can. So hopefully this isn't disrupting the flow, Adriana, but I thought this would be an interesting twist. Insert the letter A in the chat if you felt that you've had the competencies or skills needed to perform a job, but you didn't have the credential. Yeah, look at that. Yep, me too. Let me put my A. Now, here's another question. Type the letter B if you felt you've had the skills or competencies needed to perform a job, but you haven't had the years of experience. Ah, wow, that's even faster than the A. Let me add my B to it too. All right. So, you know, we have this issue in the world of workforce development. Let me now fix my slide deck here. All right, there we go. We have a little bit of an issue in the world of higher ed and workforce development in that we use credentials as proxies for skills and competencies. That has worked fairly well for us in most of the 20th century, but now with technological innovation really coming up at a faster rate of adoption, we're needing to think a little bit more critically about what these credentials bestow workers and learners by way of skills and outcomes. A college degree is worth it. There have been a number of studies with varying levels of data points that have indicated that college is still worth it. The ROI is still there for public higher education. However, we need to start getting a little bit more critical about the kinds of competencies our degrees equip students with. We can no longer assume that, oh, I have a college degree, I'm a critical thinker all of a sudden. We need to be able to get into a little bit more nuance as to what credentials are bestowing holders by way of competencies. We also use years of experience, so that's why I asked the B question. There's been a call for getting better program level outcome data to inform decisions among learners and workers, right? So you may see rankings, you may see salary outcomes, but they're all at the aggregate. We don't actually have very good data right now to get a sense of what your outcomes would be with this specific degree or credential from this specific institution of higher ed, and frankly, industry certification bodies as well. We take credentials as proxies for skills. We also need a better way of assessing the skills that somebody already has, right? So you can sort of think of this as a CLEP. You may take some college credits in high school and you know, you can take a CLEP exam to get college credit for it. Well, we need sort of a CLEP for life experiences, and that's where this slide comes into play. Oh, what happened to my, uh-oh. Seems I'm missing a slide here. Sorry, folks. I'll fix the slide deck before I get sent out to the group. But essentially, what I wanted to highlight here is this movement that's really spearheaded by the Lumina Foundation called All Learning Counts. And it's about distilling not just credentials into competencies, but experiences into competencies as well. Military service, lived experiences, entrepreneurship, volunteerism, right? What happens right now? You list all of these as a bullet point on your resume, and you send it off to some hiring manager with a cover letter that's customized against a job description. And by some miracle, the hiring manager has to assess whether those experiences you listed as bullets have derived the competencies you need to do the right job, right? It's a little bit wonky. It's a little bit, you know, inane when you think about it. So we need a better way to decipher what skills one has and how we can signal them to a potential employer without necessarily needing to get a credential to prove it, right? That's where this comes in. There's, oh, actually, this slide is partially of what I was going to include on my other slide. So I think I have an older version up here. There's this movement to catalyze something called the Learning and Employment Record. And this conversation really began with the American Workforce Policy Advisory Board that was led by the White House. They put out this report you see on the left here in September of last year that really called on education providers, employers, and others to start thinking more about the skills one has and how we can capture them in a sort of a new transcript, a new resume, and a new skills map, all in one. A learning record that would be able to capture all of the competencies you've gained throughout your life, from K through 12 to work experiences. It would really revolutionize competency-based education and then competency-based hiring, right? So this is a new movement in this space that I really wanted to flag for this group because I think it's so exciting. As we saw, we all have frustrations in the labor market whereby we know we have the skills needed to do a job, but they just won't believe us. Why won't they believe us? Why do I need this credential for them to believe us? That's why we need to move to this model of learning and employment records. If you're excited by this like me, I highly encourage you all to visit the U.S. Chamber Foundation's website, their Center on Education and Workforce. My wonderful colleague Jason Tysko there is really leading this effort to cultivate a community of practice around LERs, and there may even be LER pilots at your institution. So get in touch with the Chamber folks and see if you can get plugged in. And on that note, Adriana did give us a little bit of advice to craft our message such that you walk away with some tangible action items. My sort of topic here is a bit broad by way of background, so I have a couple of suggestions for you all, but I know our other esteemed panelists will also have some more sort of concrete ways to engage in their areas of work. The first is I highly recommend you all advocate for competency-based education and competency-based hiring. It's equitable, it's efficient, it's transparent, it's reliable, and to many of us in the workforce space, it's the future. The more we can move to a model in which a worker's abilities are evaluated based on what they know and what they can do, and less so on how many years of experience they have or what credentials they hold, the more effective and efficient our labor market will become. The second is mentor undergraduates on skill attainment as opposed to degree and experience attainment alone. Degrees are important. I work for a higher ed association. I can't say degrees aren't important, but a focus on skill attainment allows you to get a little bit more deeper in terms of what you're trying to get out of a degree, a credential, or an internship, or another volunteer experience. The third is explore ways to coach and mentor working adults looking to upskill or reskill. You all as graduate students have an immense skill set that really puts you in a position of privilege. Most workers in the United States don't have the level of know-how that you have, and you could consider taking on a role in which you can serve the underserved in your community. You may think that you may not have the sort of finesse and the skill set needed to mentor, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how able graduate students are and how much they can help those who are just looking to live a middle-class lifestyle, which is increasingly becoming difficult in this country. And finally, push academic leaders to focus on transparency with regard to skill attainment. What specifically, by way of skill, are credential holders going to leave with upon graduating with this degree, this minor, this certificate program? Not learning outcomes, skill attainment. There's a difference. The more we can push higher ed leaders to think in this way, the faster we'll be able to build a more equitable and efficient education to work continuum. So that was a bit of a fire hose, but I hope it gives you a little bit of a sense of the ins and outs, at least what we're thinking about at APLU by way of workforce development. Here's my email address. You can find me on Twitter, and I'd really welcome an opportunity to meet you all if you're ever in Washington in the post-COVID era. And if not, please don't hesitate to reach out by email. I'd be more than happy to chat by phone about my work at APLU, my opportunities with the Journal of Science, Policy, and Governance, or anything else that may be more useful. Adriana, that's it. I'll kick it over to you.